And we are live. We are
Hello.
we are back and live for the first time in I think it must be 10 weeks.
It's been a long time because we already had quite a big gap planned, and then the dogs I was looking after were being naughty, so we had to reschedule for this. Except that was right before August when obviously you were up in Edinburgh, and I was like busy as well.
Yeah,
Less exciting things like I went to Hamburg, that was really nice, but then uh yeah, not doing shows, which is exciting in a different way. But yeah, no, we're back. I'm excited to be back. I've
yeah.
missed doing this. um like I got really excited. Anyone who hasn't looked at our YouTube channel, I got really excited about this, and I went through and I sorted out all of like the art videos and stuff and all of the other content that we have to get stuff sorted, and that just put me in such a good headspace to be
Yeah,
back at doing this. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm really looking forward to what we're gonna talk about all afternoon.
yeah. It's gonna be good. Like I don't know about you, Chris, but I've been thinking that this almost feels like series two now.
Series two, but we're still in the first 150. This is only episode 8.
Look, we have a 100 million series, but yeah, because
We've
of the
had a
break,
little
I'm
summer
like
break.
I'm like, yeah, right, we're in series two now. We've got a new opening screen. It's like
Yeah,
I don't. I know you often can't see it, but I don't know if you've got it up on your like Twitch. But I
yeah,
feel
I have
like
it
it's
up on
looking
my.
swish.
Yeah, it is very cute. I love it.
Uh,
I just like yeah, nice and polished.
yeah. Well, let's see how long we can manage that for. I reckon. Let's see. We've been live now for 2 minutes. I reckon maybe another two.
I
Um,
mean, at least they can hear us this time. It's not like we've had episodes where we come on and we start talking and people are like, I can't hear shit you're saying. So,
well,
um,
there you go. That's that with new series, new me.
yeah. Ah.
So what have you been up to?
So like I said, I went to Hamburg. Like I saw some beautiful bits of the city and I ate some lovely food. That was nice. Let me have a look. What else have I been doing? I've been playing a lot of video games. Because I finally played Zelda Breath of the Wild and that was great. I I've been playing 2 games. One, I can't give you any information about because it's embargoed until September 5th, but I can tell you when you're allowed by Chance of Senna, it's such a really good game. The other one I've been playing is the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, which is I will link you to my review because I won't waffle too much about this, but it's like choose your own dialogue, choose your own options game. And it's about like witches who live in space,
Wow.
right? And you are a witch that's been exiled to for 1,000 years, and you're 200 years into your exile. Um, and you like summon a behemoth to help you escape, basically. And what it does is it helps you. You have to like agree to what you're going to sacrifice right at the beginning of the game in order to go through this process. And then like your choices genuinely impact the story in like a really profound way. Um, and like the behemoth helps you create a new tarot deck, which is how you um do your magic. And you like part of the gameplay is creating the cards yourself. And then there is that real element of chance where the cards are different because you've made them. And they also have like which ones you pull have different ramifications on the options that you get when you're reading. And the gameplay takes the form of like uh, witches come to see you in your house. I think you being exiled to your home is a really quite clever way of like keeping the game quite contained while still feeling like there's a massive scale. I think that was very smart. Witches come to your home, you have to talk to them, and you like learn about the coven, and you get all this history, and you learn about the relationships, and you learn about people's secrets, and you do like tarot readings for them. And as you like generate magical ability, you can make new cards, and then when you make new cards, like obviously the options that you get for when you do these readings unfold. But obviously, as time goes on, the sacrifices you promised the behemoth also come into it. And there's like division amongst the witches because the coven leader died. Um, and there are like people with contrasting like political ideas about how the coven should move forward, and you have to get involved in that. And it genuinely makes you think about like community and
Mm.
responsibility. And I think it has some of the most profound like punches. Like I felt so responsible for the choices I was making because all the characters feel really real.
Mm.
Um, and so I've been playing that, and I would recommend everyone give it a go because it's very good. And it's not a game that I would usually pick because the like very dialogue heavy games normally aren't my vibe. But this one I was just like, fuck everything else right out the window right now because I need to sit down and pay attention to what's going on in this game because it's very well constructed.
Mm.
So that's what I've been up to. I've been playing that game.
Oh, smashing it. Did you do a review for that? I'm assuming.
I did. I've put the link in the chat if anyone wants to read it.
I
Um,
shall have a read of that later. But I'm assuming from what you just said, it will be a glowing one.
what about you? What have you been up to, mate?
Right. Where to begin? So I went off to Edinburgh to do what I thought was going to be one show. Um, I thought so. I'd come up with a show called the Stand Up Horror Show, which was what we were kind of taking the break
Hmm.
for this, for me to be able to go off and do, and for you to go off and travel and become a space witch. Um, but within the first day of me being there, I'd picked up another show with a guy called Phil Ellis, who's like one of my like big inspirations. So I did like a little role in his show. So then I was doing two shows, and then I was also doing comedy sports and spots and little bits of like improv and stand up here and there. So by um, within the space of 24 days, I think I did 65 shows. Yeah,
Wow.
and
You've
that's
been
like
busy.
honestly, I feel like this podcast is getting the last of my steam before my honestly before my body turns to dust. Um, but yeah, so the two shows that I did, the two main shows were mine and Phil's show, and Phil's show got nominated for the best show at the Edinburgh Fringe, and
Amazing.
mine got shortlisted for an Emergent Talent Award. So hopefully that'll come to at the end of this month. I can't say too much about it because it's all embargoed. But by the end of this month, hopefully I'll be able to say what that is. But but yeah, I got that, and I got like an alternative comedy award, and and I just finished, like literally I finished Edinburgh on the 30th. So like it finished on the 28th. I had the 29th to basically do some touristy stuff, and then on the morning of the 30th, I got on a train at 10, got off the train at 1:30 in Manchester, and then I had a tech rehearsal for my show plus a one-to-one show that I'm like working on. And that was at 2 o'clock in Salford. So I literally like taxied straight across, and then I did that, and then I spent the next 2 days doing like an experimental theatre festival. So that was my Thursday and Friday this week, and then yesterday, yeah,
Wow.
I went to Sheffield and did a kids comedy gig at like Rotherham Arts Festival. So that was very high energy, and that was actually my old show. So I had to like dust off all the stuff from my old show and like do all that for them. And then like I say, today I've been like right, the podcast, and then my brains will just fall out of my ears.
Yeah, it sounds like you are well overdue a rest.
Mate,
Um,
I mean, for those of you who follow this channel, you'll know that this Fearow one was meant to be before the break, but we pushed it back, and if we hadn't done that, I feel like doing the drawing competition would have been like so stressful. On top of all that,
Yeah.
so to have my drawings done like 10 weeks in advance, I can't remember if I put the drawings up on the YouTube or not. Um,
I don't think so.
I feel like
I've all of the Rattata ones come out because like we don't wanna reveal
no.
the drawings before we do the
Mm.
reveal.
Well, on that note, do you want to do your drawing or shall I do mine?
Do you want to go
Go on, I'll do mine.
after a 10 long week break?
Okay, well, I was very much influenced by the anime, and I'm expecting that you'll know what this is a reference to. Um, so this is my one. Uh,
Ah,
which,
yes,
yes. Um,
yeah.
oh, go on.
That's the Ash trying to catch his first Pokemon when Pikachu's not talking to him,
Yeah,
and he throws the rock,
yeah. Uh,
and it hits Spearow in the head, and it's the catalyst for everything that happened.
yeah, so I felt like
Everything that happens from there on out.
I felt like that was a good enough moment. I feel like this week's episode is going to be like particularly like anime influence for me, but that's the one that I went with. I feel like that's the most iconic Spearow moment in the anime. So do you want to do yours?
Yeah, so I think that I had like a similar kind of mindset. I didn't do the rock throwing, but like what I think of when I think of Spearow is its rage
Mm,
following that rock. And for me, it's like the glint in its eye.
yeah.
I felt that was always good. So I've gone in a similar vein with like its angry little face.
Oh, that's pretty sick. That is pretty cool. This
I
is.
think I might have made it cuter than I anticipated, but I'm not mad about it. Like I think I think looking at my Spearow that's a bit cuter than I initially anticipated, but still angry, kind of captures Spearow quite well
Mm,
at the more I look at it because like things that are little and also angry, like there's a relationship there
mm,
between the littleness and the anger, and I think like bringing the cuteness of it out works
mm.
um
Yeah,
towards that relationship. So like as it was coming together, I was like, this is too cute. I don't know if it's what I want. And then the more I look at it, I'm like, nah, I like it.
yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, it reminds me of like when like a piece of string has like pissed off my cat. And it's like I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you to be a little piece of string versus me, who is an apex predator. I I also love how we both gone for very zoomed in.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, it's like I think body wise, it's not that different from most other bird Pokemon,
Mm,
you know? Like it's not massively different to the other kind of, like Pidgey, until it grows up all skinny while Pidgeot gets quite bulky.
mm,
However, I think that, its face and its
yeah.
expressions are what makes Spearow Spearow.
Mm. Well, do you know what? Right, some of these weeks that we do these, I'll be like in my head. I'll be like, I've got a feeling that I know which one will win the competition, but I feel like it's anyone's game here.
Yeah,
Um,
I think we've both had the same um general idea and gone in our own
mm,
directions with it, which I think that's when we get like the most fun competitions, I think.
yeah. Well, I have continued to go anime inspired for mine, but I went quite stylized with this one. So I'll show you mine. So it's again same episode later on. Let's see what you make of this.
Ah, I see. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, yeah. You got Fearow getting attacked. All
yeah.
right.
So yeah.
I I went away from, well, not so much away from the anime, but I tried to do like a similar thing where what I wanted was what makes Fearow um kind of what makes it Fearow basically.
Mm,
Because when I think of Fearow, I think of like the long angry face, and I think of the claws,
mm,
and I think of like how big it makes itself when it's like spreading its wings out and like, blocking out like the sun behind it, whatever, and just being angry. Um, and so I sort of tried to do like a Fearow in like attack mode. That's my one.
oh, pretty
I feel
sick.
like, yeah, I feel like equally, if I'd gone closer on the face and got more of the eye the way I did with the Spearow, it might be what I was going for, might have been a bit more clear. But I think you can tell it's a Fearow,
Yeah.
so I'm happy with that.
Well, I feel like one of the issues that I had was that I feel like Pharaoh's like a bit nondescript.
Yes, I think, yeah, what makes Fearow it's just a big bird,
Mm.
like, which can be said of a lot of Gen 1 Pokemon. Like Pidgeot's just a big fat bird. Ekans is just a snake, Arbok is just a cobra, like Execute is just some eggs, like Magnemite is just a magnet. Magneton is just free magnets.
Mm.
Like they're not like I think when people go, "Oh, Pokemon's getting unimaginative," and it's like, "Fuck off! It was always unimaginative. You just
Mm.
didn't care because you were a child. Your imagination did the work, and you found a way to love a sentient magnet."
Yeah.
Right? Now you're an adult. Your imagination isn't doing the work. The problem is you, right? And I think when you get like particularly the ones you meet early game, that's where you can tell. Because then it's just Rattata is just a rat. Like Pidgey is just a pigeon. Like they are just the things that they are.
Mm.
I think now, like you've got Rookidee, I think is quite an imaginative bird Pokemon because they say like, right, what we're gonna do to make this different, and they made it like nights, which I think works with the
Mm.
setting. I think you can really tell with the Galar region that that is the one that they put the most effort
Mm.
into tying the Pokemon to the region,
Yeah.
in a way that they did a bit before, but like never to that scale. I think that generation has more new region exclusive Pokemon than any other region up until that point, any other game up to that point. And I really like that direction that they're going with it.
Mm.
I think that the designs are genuinely interesting. And I thought it was also interesting when they introduced Fletchling because then like one of the early easy Pokemon you can get is like a fire type because then that undermines like, right, you're actually going to pick the fire type when it's one of the earliest fire types you can get in any game.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think going back to like Generation 1, there was a lot of normal types that were just the thing that they're
Mm.
based on and not much different. And I think you do see that in Spearow and Fearow and also the Pidgey line too.
Yeah.
And a lot of others.
There we go. And that
Yeah.
was the end of the episode. I hope you. Well, should we go into Spearow?
Yeah, let's talk about Spearow.
Right.
So,
So I'm gonna ask you the question because I know what my answer is gonna be. Do you have any kind of memories of Spearow?
well, yeah, like Spearow is like, like we said in the picture reveal, Spearow is like the original antagonist. Like Ash pissed off a Spearow in episode one, not episode one, but soon. And like without that altercation with the Spearow, without Ash trying to protect Pikachu from the Spearow, even though Pikachu was being a little asshole, um, then like they never would have established the bond that has carried
Mm.
them through a million seasons of Pokemon. Like they without Spearow, just that wouldn't have happened. Without Spearow's
Mm.
rage and desire for vengeance, And I feel like even though there isn't like a main series like character with Spearow as a partner Pokemon that you see a lot of, I think that plot does give Spearow a lot of character and a lot of
Mm,
personality. You get an idea from the story of like the territorial nature of Spearow and the aggression and just how I like that how that has been established. I think that's really effective and I think it does
mm,
make Spearow memorable.
yeah.
Um and I think it gives Spearow like a bit of an edge. Like we discussed this a bit in the Pidgey episodes. Like Pidgey is like the cute, friendly one that Ash has on his team. And so like people lean towards Pidgey because it was such a well, Pidgeotto and Pidgeot were such a big part of the anime on the protagonist team.
Mm,
But like I think Spearow's got like a bit of an edge to it. It's the angry one. It's like the
mm,
foil. It's the heel
yeah.
of the early flying types. And I'm into it. I like it. I can appreciate it.
Well, I suppose I should have reworded that question. Have you ever used the Spearow on your team?
I don't know. I think I recently decided I was going to replay Let's Go Eevee, and I wanted to have some Pokemon I didn't use much when I was younger because it's just easier to get a Pidgey because they're more common. And then once you have it, like Pidgeot is more powerful in the end than Fearow, even though Fearow Pidgey evolves like level 20,
Mm,
something like that, quite young. So you have to get a Pidgey through Pidgeotto and up to like level 34, 36 to get a Pidgeot. Um, but you can have your Fearow at level 20. So it's a quicker escalation to its most powerful form. But I think like you also have to like put a lot of thought into how you're going to
mm,
use that Fearow, what you're going to do with it, like what moves you want it to have that's going to make it a better option than Pidgeot.
mm,
So I did say recently I was going to replay Let's Go Eevee with a Fearow and see how it fit on my team. And then I don't think I got very far through the game before I got distracted and did something else.
mm,
Uh, and also, like, I think the Let's Go games is not the game I want to use it on. Because like you can't like it takes away the battle function against wild Pokemon, which is where I wanted to like play with it.
mm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'm fairly certain I've never ever had a Spearow on the team. Um, like I remember coming across it when I was younger, and I'm pretty sure I already had a Pidgey, and I'm pretty sure I came across it on Route One. Um,
yeah,
like it may have potentially been Pokemon Yellow. Like I feel like that feels correct that it was on Pokemon Yellow, but
yep,
I came across it, and I was like, oh, what's the difference between these two? But I'd already started to kind of train up my Pidgey. My Pidgey must have been like maybe a level 7, and my Spearow
yeah,
was like level 3, and I'm like, well, what's the point? What's the point of. So I just stuck it in the
yeah,
box. And then part of the problem was that I came across a Spearow like later on, and then I just
mm,
caught that Spearow, and then I had a Spearow and a Fearow. Sorry, yeah.
yeah,
And then I was like, oh well, it doesn't evolve now. So then I just
yeah,
stuck it in the box. I feel like it would very much benefit from having a third evolution. I don't
yeah.
know
But
really why it hasn't got one.
I think because then it's too similar to Pidgey, the Pidgey line. I think
Ah,
it's they yeah, I don't know. Johnny made a good point in the chat here. They said I found Spearow useful early game, especially in Gen 1 when Gust wasn't a flying type attack but Peck was. And I think that is a very good point. Um even though like Goldeen learns peck and Nidoran learns peck because they have like beaks and horns that they can use to peck things and like yeah, peck definitely doesn't need to be a flying type move because like anything can peck really, if they have an appropriate appendage. Um, it probably should have been the
mm,
other way around, especially because like Gust was Pidgey's signature move.
mm,
But like I think Spearow like didn't have a great move pool. Like apart from Peck, which is obviously good, it then gets Growl and Leer. And if you play Pokemon like me, you don't like those moves that don't do damage.
Yeah.
And also, um if you're going to use moves that don't do damage, that
Mm,
have like a different impact on the game, Growl and Leer are not the ones. They're the ones that every fucking baby Pokemon knows. Like you want to use ones that are a bit more fun strategically.
mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't actually learn a fourth move until level 15, where it learns Fury Attack. So you've essentially got one attacking move up until level 15, whereas Pidgey definitely has a better move pool at that age. And this is like what I mean, when it comes to using Spearow and Fearow thoughtfully, you have to know what you want to do with it and like what moves it's going to have. And you need to go out of your way to teach it those moves. Like you can't just like get a decent move pool by leveling it up the way you can with a lot of other Pokemon. Um, even the ones that you catch early game, like Johnny's saying about it using Peck as a flying type move, but then you can catch Nidoran in basically the same place you can catch um Spearow, and you've got Peck the flying type move, but you've also got like a poison type Pokemon right there, which is um something that's gonna make your team a bit more different than having like if you've got Pidgey, which has a better move pool,
Mm,
and a Spearow just so it's got Peck. Nidoran's got Peck and it's also got Poison Sting. You know,
yeah.
you can do and double kick.
Yeah.
You can do more with it.
Well, we had another comment in the chat. I don't know if it's worth waiting until a little bit later, but when we do the Fearow one. But Sam said that Spearow is better than Pidgey, but Pidgeot is better than Fearow. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'd agree with that.
I would agree with that. I don't know if everyone else heard that exactly in time due to like Zoom delay, but like that was so in sync.
uh,
um, yeah. So no, I would agree with that, and I think it's because of that middle evolution that
mm,
Pidgeot is better, and also I think it goes back to like tying it into the anime. Like Ash had a Pidgeotto and briefly a Pidgeot, and you know there are kids who are playing it who want the Ash storyline in a way,
yeah.
so they will do the same. Um, but yeah, I think Fearow is decent which we'll talk about when we get to Fearow, I'm sure. Fearow is decent because it evolves a level 20.
Yeah.
So then when you are mainly battling people who have middle evolutions, your Fearow has that advantage being its final evolution.
Mm,
By the time you're battling people whose Pokemon are in their third evolution, your Fearow then loses
yeah.
its advantage, loses its edge a little bit. And it's like I tend to steer clear of Pokemon that only have two evolutions or
Mm,
single types,
yeah.
just because I feel like when you're making um uh a team that's designed to be able to like take on any challenge, you're just automatically opening yourselves up to weakness
Yeah.
by not doing that. And it means that there are a lot of like Pokemon that in theory I think are very cool that I just have never properly used. And Fearow is one of them.
Yeah, yeah. I had a similar thing where because I don't feel like I actively like avoid second stage evolution, but I must do it like subconsciously because I remember when I did Sword and Shield and I had a Dreadnought, and when I found out that was only two stage, I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't a third stage, and like it was already like a key part of the team at that point, but like I feel like if I'd carried on playing that game and got like the DLC and all that kind of stuff, that Dreadnought would have likely been the one that got cycled out due to the second stage evolution. Um, and yeah, I feel like Pharaoh's the same. Um, you know, you've got so many decent flying types, particularly towards the end, that it's like why wouldn't you swap your Pharaoh out for say a Moltres or a Zapdos?
Yeah, that once the legendary birds come into it, it does change the game a little bit.
Mm.
Um,
Like
so
like I used
um,
to so I used to do a thing where I would keep a Pokemon on my team for as long as I could, but if I actively felt like it was starting to kind of not be able to continue on, I was like losing more battles, or it was getting knocked out, or it was getting switched out more, I'd just get to the point where I'd be like, right, well, I can't conceivably keep you on
Yeah.
here now, and you're gonna get swapped
Yeah.
out. Like for the people who've been following the channel and doing the Violet run through, so I've got a Jigglypuff, and it's like I'm gonna evolve it soon. It's actually named after you, Kirsty. The chat decided because it had a pink swirl at the front, and I will try and keep Kirsty the Jigglypuff on for as long as I can. But I do get the feeling that eventually they are gonna. Um, I might have to find a new Kirsty. Um, but yeah, that happens. I don't know if you do that where it's like eventually you just have to make this decision and go. It obviously cannot keep up, and I feel like I would have that with Fearow after a little while with Gen 1.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Johnny has said that they feel robbed with the stage two Pokemon you get in early game because the ones you first encounter mid game at higher levels do make more sense. Um, and yeah, I'd agree with that. It's like Fearow is absolutely not the only Pokemon where that has this kind of like challenge for how much I'm actually going to use it. I think. Um, but it's the first one we've come across, and that's when we're having this discussion.
Yes. And Sam has also put that Moltres is just a spicy Fearow, which,
She's not wrong.
no, not wrong at all. It's literally just the KFC of Fearows.
To be fair, the legendary birds do look like Fearow because they're all like they look all like Fearow, they're like Pidgeot because they're also skinny birds.
Mm,
Um, and I, yeah, I think if there was like a similar backstory of like, there's like the fan theory that the
mm,
legendary beasts
yeah,
from Gen 2 are like a Vaporeon, a Jolteon, and a Flareon that
yeah,
like Ho-Oh revived from the Tower Fire and they became legendaries.
yeah.
If there was a similar deal, but with like Fearows turning into the legendary birds, I could buy that. Um Sam has said the real question is which bird is the tastiest.
Uh, to which my immediate thought is Moltres due to the spice that it obviously has.
Yeah, it comes char grilled already,
Yeah, it
so
does, yeah.
but then like Farfetch'd comes with its own side.
Yeah, so, well, canonically, apparently Farfetch'd
Yeah.
is so tasty that it's basically extinct now. Um,
Mm.
I mean that'd be a very what's the word? It'd be a very depressing Pokemon if there was like a battery chicken Pokemon.
Is that not like Torchic? Kind of
Yeah, but like Torchic, but in a cage.
in a cage. If they made like more grown up episodes and like someone's battery farming Torchics to like because they're based on like the chickens that people get given and then like discard. Because the idea was that they were like, what if we design a starter Pokemon that you're not going to want to keep to the end? And then everyone did
Is
keep
that true?
Blaziken because it's fucking sick. Yeah,
I
we'll
never
talk
knew
about
that.
it in the Torchic episode. But yeah, that's what they decided to design Torchic after these like short-lived kind of like chicken toys that are popular in a bit of the world I'm not very familiar with. And I thought that was really interesting. Um, and I feel like, yeah, if there was like a mature kind of like series of Pokemon targeting at the adults with the darker theories,
Mm,
like that could be a cool episode where they find a bunch of like battery Torchics like breeding to get the like chicks to go out to the starter Pokemon farms, like a puppy mill for
yeah,
Torchics. That'd be a fun episode to see, like,
yeah.
the good guys burst in and take it down.
Just
Like,
some really sore
yeah,
dittos at the back.
Mm, I feel like I feel like as much as I talk about this, right, things that we could do with a more grown-up approach to Pokemon stories. I very much do not want Pokemon to have a gritty adult reboot because like every single show that has had a gritty reboot has sucked.
Mm,
I don't like most of them.
mm,
And I definitely don't want them to do it to Pokemon.
yeah.
Um, hmm.
Well, I mean, I'm a fan of Dragon Ball Z. I like if we hadn't done a podcast about Pokemon, and you were like, oh, should we do a podcast about Dragon Ball Z? I feel like I could equally hold my own in that realm.
Hmm.
And the gritty reboot Dragon Ball Evolution was meant to be a series, and it was only one film. And there's a reason why that was, because it was dreadful.
Uh, well, let's hope they never do it to Pokemon.
Like I don't know, did you ever watch Dragon Ball Evolution?
I was not that much into Dragon Ball enough to justify sticking with it long. I watched an episode here or there, but like I didn't get it in the same way.
I see. Well, during the pandemic, I decided to watch the entire. I bought on DVD. It's called Dragon Ball Z Kai, which is like the abridged version of like all the episodes, because it's so hard to watch all the episodes, because it'll be like, oh, I'm gonna batter you, and then they'll just talk about, I'm gonna batter you for the entire episode, and then at the end it'll be, on the next episode, will Goku
Oh yeah,
batter?
yeah,
um,
yeah.
so they've cut all that out. But yeah, like I'm a big fan, and when they came out with the live action, I remember it came out when I was maybe like 18, 19, so I was probably just at the right age for it.
Yeah, you would have been the target
Yeah,
audience.
and I was watching it going, what's Justin Chatwin doing? Fucking jumping up and down off poles and throwing air. What is this? Uh, so yeah. I feel like if they were to do a live, like I feel like if they went gritty, they'd likely go gritty live action, and like Dragon Ball Z, it didn't work. Death Note, it didn't work. It's like
No.
it just doesn't seem to translate.
Did you know there is this month a Death Note musical coming to London?
Oh wow!
But for like 3 days. And I'm like, that's gonna be the worst fucking thing in the world. Because I cannot imagine like anything less suited to being a musical. Um, I think it's like next weekend, and a friend of mine sent me it, and I was like, I kind of want to go out of morbid curiosity, but also like the only available tickets when I'm free are like 40 quid,
Mm,
and I don't want to pay 40 quid for something I assume is gonna suck.
yeah,
Like if I could get like some like last minute cheapy ticket deal, obstructed view type thing, I would probably go just to see what it's like.
yeah.
But like I cannot imagine it being good.
I'm hoping that there's an
If it had a longer
entire
run, I
yeah.
would love to go after some reviews had come out.
Well, I'm down for that,
No?
and I genuinely hope that I will get a chip and eat it is its own song.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, the problem that I feel like a lot of these, that like particularly Death Note, that Death Note has, is um, that like, sorry if this is spoilers, by the way. If this is spoilers, feel free to mute it for the next
Spoilers here,
five
it's Chip.
seconds, right? That L dies midway through. Right, you can now unmute. And because of that, I feel like normally you'd want like L throughout the whole thing. But like part of the arc is that he couldn't do it on his own,
Yeah.
and that I feel for any live action like remake, particularly because like a live action thing is only going to be like a couple of hours, really disjoints
Hmm.
the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I think any time they try to um condense. I think this is the issue with film, and because of the point, uh stage musicals, which are usually longer than films. You like 3 hours
Mm,
or so. You get like 2 hours and like a half-hour interview. So, well, it can be a bit longer than a film. I think like when it has to be a story that fits in that time. And if you've got like, anime seasons that go on for hundreds of episodes, and then you try and condense it into like 90 minutes, you are begging for it to fail. Like, if the story fit in that time frame, that's how long it would have been in the first place. Not like, and you've got to pick your like snippet to fit into the short time
mm,
really carefully if you want to, if otherwise you're just going to alienate everyone who might want that show.
mm.
And it's yeah, not gonna work.
So this here is a little snippet behind the scenes for anyone watching. Before we went live, I was like, we've not done one of these in a while. I reckon we might go wildly off track, and I think to talk about Death Note and Dragon Ball Z is the most off track we've ever gone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we did also say
uh,
there's only so much you can say about Spearow, and I do think we've said most of it already.
well, should we have a look at the Pokédex entries then?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna. So there he is, the little main man, and whenever I look at these, I feel like I did a good job this month. Sometimes I look at it and I go, I did not do a good job of my drawing. Okay, Pokedex entries. Okay, so we've got eats bugs in grassy areas. It has to flap its short wings at high speed to stay airborne, um, which is given.
Is that not like every bird? Like, like, right?
Well, I mean, it is. It is. I feel like Spearow is a tiny bit of an afterthought. Like it wouldn't surprise me if they were like, right, well, we got Pidgey, and someone was like, well, should we just stick another bird in there just in case?
I think Pidgey needed a foil. Like, I think if Ash was going to have a Pidgeotto on his team, he like then it couldn't be a bunch of Pidgeotos and a Pidgeot like that Pikachu shocked the shit out of.
Mm.
Like, there needed to be an alternate one
Um,
in order for like it not to like traumatize children that Ash had one after everything that happened. You know, I think
but but you've got to consider that red and blue came out like so. The anime, I'm fairly certain, comes out like midway through the production of Gold and Silver, which is one of the reasons why like Ho-Oh's in the first episode.
yeah,
Um, so Spearow and Fearow actually predate the anime, so I feel like it would have been less to do with Ash and more to do with we just need a few more like early game Pokemon at this point.
yeah, I get that, and I guess like the idea of having some variety makes sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are probably a handful that feel kind of like filler Pokemon,
Mm,
but I also don't mind that because it's like not every animal is fucking interesting. So
mm.
there's got to be some duds, I think.
Yeah, very true. And we've got 151 of these until we reach the end of Series 9. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we will meet some duds. But yeah, like I imagine that they went, okay, we've got a pigeon, we got a rat. They were like, we got this
Yeah.
pangolin. Can we introduce this pangolin? And maybe a bit weird. So they're like, should we just have another bird? And this entry
Mm.
feels like at this point here they've not really established it. It's like it's
Yeah, there's nothing really unique about it.
yeah.
I think if I read just this entry alone, I I would be, yeah, first instinct, that's all birds. Like, what's new about it? Like, in the context of Yellow and Stadium entries, though,
Mm,
it it focuses on the shortness of its wings. It focuses on like how it stays low to the ground, and it focuses on how territorial it is.
Yeah.
So yellow says inept at flying high, however it can fly around very fast to protect its territory. I think that tells me a lot more about like what Spearow is like.
Yeah.
Like it can't go very high, but it's very territorial. That feels like Spearow. And then Stadium, its wings are short, so it can't go a long distance. But if it's not eaten, it does move around a lot. Right. That tells me more about what Spearow is like. Like it's not built for distance, it's not built for height, but it is built for speed. And I
Mm.
feel like the three of those together do give me an idea of what Spearow is like, but I feel like the red and blue one uh is the weakest of the three.
Yeah. Yeah. It just feels like, and here's another bird. Um, but I feel like the protects its territory that must have been lifted from the anime.
Yeah.
Mm.
I feel like the Gold Professor and Stadium 2, because they have the same territory,
Yeah.
has gone a step further than just saying Spearow has short wings to like almost like body shaming
Oh,
Fearow.
stubby.
Because it's like it flaps its short wings to flush out insects from tall grass, then plucks them out with its stubby beak. Like, all right, fuck you. Do you have a better beak than Spearow? Leave it alone. Like,
I,
we know its wings are short,
yeah.
but then I feel like stubby is just a rude way of that's a rude choice of adjective, is all I'm
Mm.
saying.
Yes. Well, there we go. Maybe we've discovered something a little bit about Gold Professor right there.
Gold Professor's a bit of a dick.
I, I was going to say,
I
yeah,
reckon
body
I
shamer.
reckon Gold Professor got pecked and was like mad about it.
And they were like,
Or Gold Professor was doing its Spearow research and a Spearow got a bit nippy.
yeah. And they were like,
Gold
what's that mark on
Gold,
your hand? Oh, it's nothing. Does that not hurt? It looks like it hurt. No, it comes from a stubby beak. Why would a stubby beak hurt anyone?
Stupid stubby little fucking um So, Silver, very protective of his territory, flaps its short wings busily to dart around at high speed. Okay. That's like that and Crystal. To protect its territory, it flies around ceaselessly, making high-pitched cries. I feel like they're uh pretty standard.
Yeah.
I think the high-pitched cry is new, but also matches what we know about Spearow from the show.
Yeah. I never
Uh,
considered Spearow as having a stubby beak. Not a stubby beak, sorry, like short wings. Like, that's not something that I particularly thought was memorable about it.
yeah, I mean it does have a smaller beak. But like I guess Pidgey also has like a pretty small beak. I think it's
Yeah.
got a normal sized beak for its size.
Yeah.
Unless you are specifically comparing it to Fearow, which obviously has a really long fucking beak.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're comparing it to Fearow. But yeah, like at the minute, like I would just be like, okay, Spearow Pidgey, and Pidgey's like the slightly, less henpecked of the two. But this is making, like, no wonder he's got a chip on its shoulder, given that the professors are being so
Yeah.
shitty about it.
Yeah. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald go on about how loud it is. Spearow has a very loud cry that can be heard over half a mile away.
Oh,
If its
dick's
high
ringing.
keening cry is heard echoing all around, it's a sign they are warning each other of danger.
Yeah.
I think that um I think that is another one that's pretty good at leaning into the territorial element of it.
Mm.
I think that's pretty cool. Fire Red, it busily flits around here and there. It's like
That's
someone has just seen it out the window and been like, "Yeah,
yeah.
I'll do."
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
fucking lazy.
There we go. Something new that we've discovered about
It's
Fire
like,
Red Professor.
I'm not getting near that stubby beak, so I'll just it's flitting around here and there.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Yeah. It sounds like it was written by my gran. It's just flitting about. You don't want to write anything. No, here and there. Don't want to write anything. No, countdowns on.
But it does go on to say, even if it is frail, it could be a tough foe that uses Mirror Move, which is I don't want to say Spearow's signature move, but like a yeah, that is like one of the moves that Spearow learns is actually good
Yeah,
by leveling up because a lot of the moves that you might want to use with Spearow, you've got to teach it.
yeah.
Back to eat bugs in grassy areas, flapping its short wings to stay airborne.
Mirror
Um,
move. Mirror move used to be like one of my like favorite moves back in the day. I used to think it was like a sick, like particularly if it was like a Pokemon that had sturdy. So like if it like
yeah,
hit me with whatever, I could mirror move it back. Um, am I right in thinking Spearow and Fearow's like signature move is Drill Peck?
I think Fearow's is yeah.
Because that's what I was going to
Like
say. Like, can Spearow learn Drill Peck? Because like it is odd that it's not been mentioned at this point.
it doesn't by leveling up.
It doesn't.
Um,
Ah,
Not by leveling up. I think you might be able to teach it. Let me have a look. Uh, Learn set. But yeah, by leveling up, it has Peck, Growl, Leer, Fury Attack, Mirror Move. Oh, Drill Peck at 29, level 29. So at that point, it's already evolved. Usually, if you keep it below, but then after Drill Peck, it learns Agility and nothing else. Everything else you have to teach it. Like it's got a decent move pool, but mostly normal type
mm,
moves. But then again, Generation 1, we talked about this earlier with like how janky the typing is. Generation 1, Razor Wind, Whirlwind, um, were both normal type moves.
mm.
And they probably should have been flying type moves, same as Gust. Um, but yeah, you have to teach it those. Um, and then it's like really good flying type moves that again you have to teach it would be Sky Attack and Fly. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, should we move on to? Oh, I'll tell you something is worth mentioning before we move on. So we've already established that Generation 3 Professor might be a furry. Uh,
Yeah.
has a loud cry that can be heard over half a mile away. If its high, keening cry is heard echoing all around, it's a sign that they are warning each other of danger. If Generation 3 Professor is a furry, maybe they are the danger. Like,
Yeah.
like
It's
Heisenberg.
like the Spearow are warning each other that that fucking meddling professor is coming back.
Yeah,
And everyone to like get on guard.
he's finished
Uh,
ripping up metapods and is
yeah.
and gawping at like Pidgeots, and now he's looking at us with our stubby little beaks in inverted commas.
Yeah. I mean, Diamond, Pearl, or Generation 4 in general doesn't get any better. It's going back to flaps its wings busily, uses its beak to search in grass for prey, flaps it, but right. Here, Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, using its beak, it searches in grass for prey. Heart Gold, it flaps its sure wings to flush out insects from tall grass, then plucks them with its stubby beak. Is it using its beak or is it using its wings to flush out the insects? Because I feel like this is conflicting information.
Well,
Um,
either way, stubbiness is not conflicted.
Stubbiness. Yeah, we're all in agreement. It's got a stubby beak. Uh, Soul Silver goes to very protective of its territory, flaps its short wings busily to dart around at high speed. Again, that's not new information. Black, Black and White 2 flaps its small wings busily to fly, using its beak searches in grass for small prey. Again, not new information. I feel like Spearow is being a bit sold short.
Mm,
Like I'm not learning new things from these Pokedex entries.
yeah,
Like not in the same way that some of them, like the Raticate Pokedex entries, I think genuinely um uh are like they build on what I understand about Raticate and
yeah,
this just doesn't.
yeah. I mean, the thing is as well, like, I feel like once you move beyond, like, the gold and silver, like, uh, the Johto portion of the anime, I feel like Spearow does increasingly get kind of left behind, because they swap out that kind of antagonist for, other Pokemon.
Yeah.
Um, particularly like the group. I feel like the groups, Team Aqua, Team Magma, end up filling that role much more so than Pokemon do.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
so maybe it's partly that as well.
yeah, that's possible. So Gen 6 doesn't give anything new, but Gen 7 I quite like. So Sun, its short wings make it inept at flying. It moves about hurriedly and pecks at bug type Pokemon in the tall grass. That's not any new information, but I think it's communicated a bit better.
Yeah.
I really like the one for Moon. Farmers whose fields are troubled by bug Pokemon appreciate Spearow for its vigorous appetite and look after it. I
Oh,
think that's cute. That's finally telling me something new about Spearow. That is contextualizing Spearow. It's giving it like a space to be in the Pokemon world, um, and showing its relationship with other Pokemon and people. I like that. This is my favorite one so far.
yeah.
Um,
And you could potentially like maybe give a farmer trainer a couple of Spearow,
yeah.
maybe like that, and maybe like a Cacnea.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah,
I also quite like Ultra Sun. Its reckless nature leads it to stand up to others, even large Pokemon, if it has to protect its territory. Which again, I think that's new information.
yeah,
Like we know about Spearow's aggression because we've seen it in the show,
yeah.
but I think this is offering a bit more information about that. It's like it's not just like, oh, it's a little angry and territorial and hungry, but this is like its anger leads to behavior that is potentially, not good for it.
Mm,
um but I like that. I like that.
yeah,
I think it's good.
yeah.
So yeah,
I
I think
feel
yeah, I think
like
Gen 7 finally gave Spearow some fucking time
mm,
instead of these lazy ass professors that are just like, oh, it's flying around and it's loud,
and Stubby.
stubby.
Do you think that the farmers were like, I feel like you are being real mean to Spearow. We like Spearow.
Real
What?
mean to
Yeah. What
Spearow.
do we want? Better Spearow entries. When do we want it? Well, as soon as the harvest is finished and we might have a bit of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that the rest sort of don't tell us anything new.
Yeah.
They had a couple of good ones in there.
Yeah. Well, should we have a look at the Smogon next?
Yeah, let's do
Let's
it.
do Smogon. And I discovered something about Smogon that I feel like we should have a look at. Um, because so there it is there with a little animation, which I would say doesn't look particularly small winged or stubby in comparison to.
Yeah.
Um, and you can see here that it's got all the details, like the speed's pretty decent, but it is ultimately
Yeah.
all red and in the little cup. And what I discovered
Yeah.
is we get another, if we scroll down, we get another little view on it. This is according to the competitive Pokemon team. Like, someone who is arguably as much of a Pokemon professor as those Pokemon professors. But
Yeah.
I feel like they are a bit mean, really. Spearow offers little to nothing to distinguish itself from the myriad of flying Pokemon in the tier, and struggle to find a place on any serious team as a result. Uh,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think that is also potentially a like an element of being in Gen 1 because the early Pokemon did not have to compete with 1,000 other Pokemon.
yeah,
Like when they're coming up with new Pokemon now, and they're like, all right, we're gonna put a flying type on this route. They have many flying types to pick from already.
yeah,
They can say, oh yeah, we just need something really simple. We'll chuck a Spearow in. You don't need another Spearow
yeah,
at the time. They can be like, we need an angry one to be like the opposite of Pidgey, and then they come up with Spearow.
yeah,
We're now they're like, well, we already have Pidgey and Spearow, so if we come up with a new flying type, it needs to have its own gimmick. It can't just be another Pokemon that's exactly the same.
yeah,
We can already use those. So I think there are going to be a lot of Pokemon that we come across that are simple compared to their counterparts from other regions in other generations. And it's like I was saying before about like Rookidee and Fletchling. They wanted a new flying type to go in that bit,
yeah,
and Fletchling, interesting because it's also a fire type. That's unusual
Mm.
for such an early game
Yeah.
Pokemon. Rookidee, that has been thought of like what makes it unique to this region.
Yeah.
And I think they didn't have to put so much thought into it here because it didn't have the competition.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like as we get later into the games, we do get more interesting Pokemon with more interesting gimmicks.
Yeah.
But at this point, Pokemon didn't need gimmicks to be different because this was your only choice. This was your only option.
Yeah.
Like, Fearow was just angry
Yeah.
and slightly different, and that was enough to distinguish it from Pidgey. That was enough to give it its own characterization because it wasn't being compared to as many things.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think we're going to see a fair bit of that over the next few months
Yeah.
of
Well,
episodes.
the thing that I think is if they introduced Spearow later on down the line, um, it wouldn't have been normal flying type. I think they would have made it a dark flying.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, yeah, I guess like Murkrow.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean,
I like Murkrow. I
yeah,
think it's a cool Pokemon.
yeah. I'm a fan of a lot of the dark types. I think as I mean, I don't feel like we've chatted about this on the podcast before, but I'm pretty sure that in Japan it's not called dark type; it's called like evil type. Um,
Ooh.
so the idea of it being like flying evil would be
Mm.
like it being the grumpy version of a Pidgey. I feel would make sense as well, and it's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I don't know why they've not decided to give Fearow an extra evolution that's flying dark type that that's like
They
a
might. They very much might like introduce in a future game like an alternate form Fearow or a like an additional evolution the way that they've done with Meowth.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think it would be a way to give Spearow and Fearow a bit more like use,
yeah,
get people a bit more interested in them. I don't know what like the market is like for that because again, as apart from being very catalytic
yeah,
in the beginning of the series, like I didn't see too many of like these Pokemon through the show, so it was kind of fine.
yeah,
I don't know how many people are using them enough that they're gonna go back and focus on Spearow and Fearow.
yeah,
But I also think that with some of the regional variants, they have sort of gone with less popular
mm,
Pokemon for the sake of um keeping them relevant.
yeah,
Like when they made the alternate forms of Grimer and Muck, I thought they were cool.
yeah,
I thought like, oh yeah, look at like how pollution is different from region to region. You've got like the normal ones that are just sludge, and you've got these ones that look more like an oil spill when
yeah,
it catches the light.
yeah,
Like I thought that was really interesting, and I could see, I could see them doing a similar thing with Fearow in a different game.
yeah, yeah. Like I'd make it look like a hawk, the like a
Yeah,
full on like bird of prey that's like given up
yeah,
on the territorial thing and just will like attack anything that's in the territory. But yeah. So should we draw Spearow to a close and give our
yeah.
own
We need to give it
rating?
our own ratings. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
What would you give Spearow?
I feel like I'm being a bit mean, but I feel like we've not particularly learned very much from the lore standpoint. I feel like gaming like Game Freak haven't done enough kind of like with the mechanics of it for me to push it beyond a 5.
Yeah, I was gonna go with like a 4 because like aside from it's the plot points that it triggered in the show, Spearow could be quite forgettable just in the games. Um and yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a 4 and a 5 I feel is very fair. Right, let's go
Yeah.
into the break. Um,
All right.
so yes. Apologies for the people who were like commenting in the chat because I was going through the Pokédex. So I didn't realise there was so many in the chat. But it's so nice that
We were talking
so
about someone else.
yeah. It's so nice that so many people have like joined us on this one that we're back.
Yeah.
Mm,
Like it's been nice. It's been very active and interesting. I like it.
yeah, been dead nice.
Mhm.
What was I going to say? So do you have anything that you want to plug?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me have a look. So, um, tomorrow we are streaming the highlights from the Blizzard Comedy Pride special show,
Mm,
which we was live in Gulliver's a couple of weeks back. If anyone wants to watch that, it's over on the Blizzard Comedy Twitch. Um, and our GoFundMe for Sparkle, which we're raising money for with that gig, did is still up. So if you want to donate to that, we've still got a little bit to go before our target. So I've got links to those in the chat. The Facebook event for it, but it's the Blizzard Comedy Twitch, and the GoFundMe. The next live Blizzard is also coming up on Monday, 11th September, featuring the absolutely bloody incredible Eddie Hurst as our headliner,
oh,
and
smash!
as always, a smashing lineup.
Yeah,
Um, our next broadcast Avalanche at the end of the month on Monday 25th, which again, another wicked lineup. It's got yourself on it, Tom. That's going to be a lot of fun stepping in as team captain. So if
yeah,
anyone wants to have a watch of that, again, Blizzard Comedy on uh everything, and the show will be on Twitch.
yeah. That'll be my
Um,
first time ever doing the team captaining, so I
yeah.
apologise in advance.
Um, I also, this is not a me thing, but it's a friend of mine is doing this thing where she's working with a charity to buy and deliver a pickup truck full of medical supplies to the front line in Ukraine, defending themselves from the Russian invasion. And she's just over halfway towards her like 8 grand target to buy a truck and fill it with the stuff they need and get them through Europe. And if anyone's got some spare cash lying around and wants to help out with that effort, she has a Just Giving page, which I'm also going to pop in the chat. So those are all of the things that are kind of in my peripheral at the moment.
Yeah,
Um, there might be some more things coming up soon. Yesterday, me and my band went to Nunhead Cemetery and made a bunch of like moody goth photos, um, to put on some music potentially, but we haven't recorded or mixed it yet. So for all I know, it's not gonna be ready for another year.
mm,
But it shouldn't be that long because Dan's very good at mixing and recording, and he knows what he's doing. So could be sooner, but maybe just like hold off on getting too excited about that until I know actually when it's going to be.
yeah.
But I'm having fun with it, and I think that's the important thing. What about you, mate?
What?
What have you got to plug?
Right, I don't have any. I don't have any like links really beyond my my Facebook page. My Facebook page and my Instagram. I don't suppose you would mind putting those in the chat for me, if that is all right, Kirsty. You don't have to.
Yeah, sure, not a problem.
Thank you.
I shall grab them for you now.
So what I've got coming up is so the two shows that I did, Phil's show and the stand-up horror show, which is about to get renamed to the Ha Ha Horror Show, or maybe the Ha Ha Horror Hour, is about to. So I'm about to kind of start expanding and doing more shows. So with Phil's show, I'm hopefully going to be doing some stuff around the northwest and maybe around the southeast. So which I'd already messaged Kirsty about. So hopefully that'll happen in the near future. But I can't say too much about that. But with the Ha Ha Horror Show, we are so we've got currently booked in October. We've just got Liverpool confirmed, which is going to be at like an alternative arts theatre, and that's going to be on the 10th, I think, in fact, I'm gonna get it all up, so I can just read it straight out for you. But we've got Liverpool. We've got um, we've got the Nottingham Comedy Festival coming up. We've got the Leicester Comedy Festival, which is hopefully penciled in. I've just sorted out Face Bar, which is penciled in for in November, so that'll be quite exciting. We've got. Um, I'm looking for places in London, so if anyone knows of any places in London that they think would be a good location for it, like please do like message me and let me know, um, because that is something that I'm actively looking at doing. Um, so we've got the Edinburgh Horror Festival as well, which is the 27th, 28th, and 29th of October, which was like one of the main things that I wanted to get for this show. And I also have got Rill. We've got a place in Rill coming up as well, which is on the 26th of October as well. And we're going to be putting all of those out like basically over the next 2 or 3 days. So like make sure that you are following the channel. Although I'm going to be posting about all that kind of stuff. I've just literally managed to get it up here, so I'm going to put it on the screen dead quick.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
I'm gonna pop. Uh, are we? Are we back on? Are we back on? I think we are. I do apologise, but anyway, we don't need that. We don't need that back up on the screen. So yeah, it's kind of moved on. So what I was saying was, sorry about that. That's just that screen I think was having an issue with the sound coming through. Basically, we've got all those dates coming up, and I've got all these kind of ideas to kind of expand the show, and it's almost like we've changed the name from the stand-up horror show to the Ha Ha Horror Show, and I think that's probably come at the right time because it's moving beyond being like a stand-up with horror elements or horror with stand-up elements, and it's fleshing out now into kind of more of an ensemble, almost kind of semi-improvised play. So so hopefully we're going to be able to move forward and be able to expand. So like I had ideas. I was chatting with it's with Ben Hodge, who I think has done stuff for Blizzard, uh,
Oh yeah.
and another person called Maisie Whip, who I don't know if done stuff for Blizzard yet, but she's like really really nice, really lovely, and very funny, and we've kind of been discussing about ways that we could use this as a brand, this Ha Ha Horror Show, to maybe do stuff like the Ha Ha Horror Show presents Night of the Living Dead, and we like recreate Night of the Living Dead, or the Ha Ha Horror Show presents like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, or the Ha Ha Horror Show presents like Frozen, for example, and we like take more kind of comedic.
Yeah.
So we take like horror things and comedy them up, and we can also take like more comedic things and horror them up. But like I say, it's early days yet, but I think like so Edinburgh was quite successful, and we got told that we were like one of the most kind of busy shows in the room that we were in. So I'm hoping that that's a sign that there is like a market for this type of thing, and it's just a case of us like capitalising on it now. So we had all those dates that I had up on the screen a minute ago, between October the 21st to November the 10th, and hopefully I'll keep on expanding on that. And I think the first big expansion that we'll probably do is when we look at doing, so it's called the Ha Ha Horror Show now, and I'm thinking that I'm going to do some tentative dates in December and call it the Ho Ho Horror Show. And yeah, I think that's going to be quite good. And
Yeah.
and I think that hopefully people will be looking for some. I think it'll like stand out amongst the kind of Christmas crowd and stuff like that. But I think that depending on how that goes, that'll be my big sign about like how much we can like play around with the format and stuff like that. And something else that I said, I think whilst the mic was cut off, is we're looking at doing stuff in. I'd like to do some stuff in London. Hopefully, got some tentative dates in like the Midlands as well, which I'm going to be putting out there and kind of doing like a continually updating like pinned post. We're thinking. But if there is any venues that people think, oh, that would be a really good fit for like a horror comedy like silly show, like let me know, because I am actively looking at putting this on at different places, and obviously I'm going to be hitting up you, Kirsty. Like,
Yeah. I'll let you know what my recommendations would be. I'll have a little think for you.
yeah, cool. Because yeah, like I say, I feel like the fire is starting to get a bit hot now. So it's a case of kind of striking and building on that momentum. But that's kind of where I'm at in terms of stuff to plug. Right, should we have a look at going into Fearow?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
fabulous. So, right, Fearow. What is your kind of main memories for Fearow?
My main memories for Fearow are, I mean, it's there's the one that defends the Spearows attacking Ash.
Yeah.
There's the one later on that Pidgeot Ash's Pidgeot leaves to defend the Pidgeys from. That's it. No, there is one Pidgeot, not Pidgeot, one Fearow that is in a later season that I remember being quite funny. It's in like the new one. That like not the new like Pokemon Legends,
Mm.
Masters Legends, something like that with Ash and Go. Um, where some kid tried to trick his grandfather into thinking there was a Ho-Oh nearby, by dressing up his Fearow and sending it up into the sky with a Cyndaquil on its back, and the
Mm.
Cyndaquil would breathe fire to make it look like Ho-Oh's glowing wings.
Yeah.
So like that was quite funny. But yeah, that's it. That's all I really have on Fearow. I don't remember it being huge. Like there are some like supporting characters who have Fearows, and sometimes they were, you know, decent, but none stand out as like particular storylines that I remember all that well, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we mentioned it a little bit in the previous episode with Spearow that, like, they make the legendary birds like look a little bit more like Fearow. Um,
Yeah.
Whether or not that's to kind of keep Pidgeot as kind of its own thing, or
Mm.
that Fearow just kind of looks a little bit more aggressive, because it's like thinner and got the long like pointy beak and stuff. But like when you were talking about that later episode, I was thinking to myself, oh, I wonder why they picked Fearow, and then I was like, well, of course, because Fearow looks like a whole bunch of the legendary birds, like.
Yeah.
Like, you'd probably struggle to pick another bird that looked a bit like Ho-Oh or Zapdos or Moltres that wasn't just because you can't have Honchkrow, you can't have I feel like they've massively diversified the bird designs after Fearow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they diversified a lot of the designs in later games. And again, I feel like that's partly because they sort of have to,
Mm.
in order to keep them feeling fresh and interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm yeah, I feel like bird types definitely. I mean, there's lots to draw from. There are lots of different birds in the world.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think you're probably right on there. And I think, yeah, Fearow, similar to Spearow, because of the simplicity of its design, it was already kind of overlooked with Pidgeot being the more powerful flying type.
Mm.
And then when you get to the late game bit, you've got the legendary birds. You've also got like Dragonite flies, Charizard flies, Aerodactyl flies. Like there are options for
Mm.
Pokemon with very powerful flying type moves that just really overshadow Fearow. And the more Pokemon designs that have come out in the decades since, like the more Fearow kind of fades away into obscurity.
Yeah, I feel like if Fearow was presented to them now, it would either not quite make the cut or be asked to be
Yeah.
like redesigned.
Yeah, and I think like there is definitely value in the more simple Pokemon because I think like sometimes it looks like they've been overthinking it. And I understand why they don't want to have like go to the effort of creating Pokemon just for them to be boring and immediately unused. There's got to be something about them that pulls them in. And again, why would they make a simple bird Pokemon when you can already put one of the dozens of bird Pokemon
Yeah,
on that in that place where you need a bird,
yeah,
right? So I get why they're not coming up with new ones. But I think when they do have new ideas and they do create new Pokemon, I think they don't all need to be like very complex. I think you can create something with the simplicity of Spearow and Fearow and lean more into its signature moves and be like, look, this is a Pokemon you're going to play with while you're only really dealing with mid-level, um, second out of three evolution
mm,
foes, and then you are going to replace it with something else. But if you use its signature really effectively, it can be a powerful ally for during that segment of the game. I think if they leaned into that a bit more, that could be make for some really interesting but understated
mm,
additions to the Pokedex. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think it shows that they are still putting attention into those Pokemon that are not the most powerful and the
mm,
most exciting, and it shows that they are still putting in the work to make them interesting.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well,
and
I mean, I've just been doing some maths, right? Because I felt like this podcast had not gone off the rails early enough, so I thought I'd talk about maths. Um, so I just worked out, like how there's like 6 spaces you can have for your team, and apparently they were planning on increasing that in Gen 2, but decided to keep it to 6. And I worked out that 6 over 150 times 100 to work out the percentage is if you have all your slots full, you have
Mhm,
a total of 4% of Gen 1 Pokemon
mhm,
in your party, which is a 1
mhm.
in 20, which is basically a 1 in 20 chance that you might have a Fearow on your team.
Yeah.
But I then did the same numbers for 1,000 because we're now over 1,000, and if
Yep.
six. So 6 over 1,000 times 100 is only 0.6. So
Yeah,
you've now got only a 1 in 200 chance of you having a Fearow on your team. So
yeah,
as it continues, I feel like the chances of someone being like, oh no, Fearow is the thing on my team, it massively diminishes
mm,
with every single Pokemon. And I imagine that that's actually quite difficult for them to do as they're creating new ones, because it's like, well, how do you possibly create new ones that have like less and less of
yeah.
a chance of being used?
I think what would be cute is like if they had like a themed area or a themed game or a themed region or something, and the theme was like it's not the most powerful Pokemon, but it's like the most aggressive ones, right? And then Spearow is that region's Pidgey. Like Spearow is the only option for like the first bird you see, and see how that goes. And then it will probably have a similar progression by the time it's a Fearow. There are more powerful Pokemon that you're up against, but for a while, that Fearow is going to be a great addition to your
Mm,
team. Again, up until you get to the more aggressive ones. I think that would be like a really fun, interesting way of doing things. Um, Obviously, I don't expect them to do that, but I think as like a thought experiment, I would be interested in seeing how that region could be built.
mm,
Like I quite like the idea of um you know how like people do like themed competitive teams?
yeah.
I would be well up for kind of hashing out how a themed region would go if we were building one
Mm,
based on random criteria. And I think there are plenty of fun ways you could fit Fearow into something like that.
yeah. Well, so I mean, your avatar is a bird Pokemon, is a bird
Yep,
catcher. So
it is.
would Fearow make their way onto your bird team?
No. Because bird catchers do not only use bird Pokemon, they use flying type Pokemon. And like my partner Pokemon would be a Crobat,
Mm,
and I would want a Gliscor on my team.
yeah.
Fucking love Gliscor. I think that's a great Pokemon. Um, I would want a Noivern on my team. I think that's a sick Pokemon. Um, I have the other three slots. Gym leaders normally don't have all six.
Yeah.
So I tend to stick with like those are my core three. And then the other slots, if I was to be like an Elite Four member with six Pokemon, they fluctuate depending on what sort of mood I'm in.
Mm,
I like Corviknight, I like Talonflame, but also I feel like they are quite overused, because they are like they are more interesting, they are more powerful. I really liked having Talonflame on my team. I really liked having Corviknight on my team, but I also said going into those, oh, I'm not going to use like the bird Pokemon you get in the first route because that's like the done thing and I want to mix it up a bit. And then they ended up just, they were so good.
yeah.
But if I was building a team that I wanted to be a bit more interesting and creative, like Aerodactyl's a cool flying type, but I don't think I'd want a flying rock type when I
Yeah.
already have a flying ground type as Gliscor. And I like
Mm,
Gliscor more for me. Like the first time I um had a Gligar on my team, I was shocked at how cool I thought it was. Um, but yeah, I think there are lots of cool flying types that could go into those last three slots. And just, yeah, Fearow wouldn't make the cut. There are lots of very cool
mm,
Pokemon that are also not making the cut. And yeah, Fearow's quite understated when there are so many more Pokemon to compare it to.
mm,
Fearow is quite, like just, it doesn't have enough of a hook
yeah.
to justify being on my flying type team. Like I'd probably go more along the lines of like a Tropius, which people often forget is flying type because flying grass is quite unusual, or like a Drifblim, which is flying ghost and definitely has like something like a lot more unique stuff to it. Yeah.
Yeah. For years, I felt like I don't know. I want to say they've rectified this. I'm about to say a statement that you're going to be like, "Oh, you're wrong there," but I've always felt that they've missed out an opportunity to have a chili Pokemon, which is fire grass type.
No, they do have one of those.
Yes, I
Um,
thought that just as I was about to say it. Is it new though?
Scoreville. It's newish. What's that? Let me find it. I don't think it is Scoreville. I think it's something else. Oh, Scovillain, sorry. So it was close enough. I thought it was going with Scorch. So Scovillain is
Yeah,
a dual type grass fire Pokemon
yeah,
introduced in Generation 9. Evolves from Capsakid when exploded to a Firestone. So Capsakid is like a little like chili thing with a beak
yeah,
and like a little hat that looks like kind of the bit that's attached to the stem.
yeah,
It evolves into Scovillain when exposed to a Firestone, which is like a little gremlin thing with two heads, and it's got like a red pepper and a green pepper head. I think Scovillain is quite cool. Again, um, because two, it's got it's just a two-stage evolution. I think if it then evolved into like a big, massive grass fire monster, I think it would be very cool. And I would definitely have it on my team. But because it kind of sticks in, because its design does look like a middle evolution. It looks like it's in its awkward teenage phase. Fearow's design does not look like
no,
an awkward middle evolution. Fearow looks finished.
yeah,
I could see it having a sick mega evolution.
yeah,
Um, but Scovillain looks unfinished. It looks like Wartortle and Charmeleon. It looks like there's something else coming after it before it's fully cooked. Um,
yeah, and
and yeah, I think that's probably why I put off actually using it.
yeah, and that's how I felt about Dreadnought. I was like,
Yeah,
I feel like it looks like there should be, you know, it's like it's there on its four legs, and it came from like this little turtle, and it went massive, and it's on four legs, and you're like, right, there's gonna be another one where it stands up, and it never happened.
I feel like if it did, I feel like the reason they didn't give Dreadnought more is because they didn't want it to be too much like Blastoise.
Yeah,
I think it's already very similar. Like there are so many directions you can go with turtles, and like Tootle and Squirtle are already very similar, all things considered.
yeah,
And again, I feel like Tootle, similarly to how I feel about Fletchling, because you get it really early on. And I know that you get water Pokemon a lot earlier than you get fire Pokemon in most games, but I feel like it's unusual to get something that early that is such a close contender for a starter
yeah,
Pokemon. Um, so I just feel like it's an interesting choice.
yeah. Yeah, it feels like it would not surprise me if they were in the run-ins to be the original starters.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I could believe that like Tootle was a based on a kind of discarded earlier design of Squirtle.
mm, like I feel somewhat similar about the elemental monkeys in Gen 5.
Yeah,
Um, you like get them what like 5 to 10 hours into those games, and it's like, oh, you picked up the fire type. Well, here's a complementary Pokemon that's relatively decent that like
yeah.
complements that will help you in terms of the battling, and it's like, was like what was the kind of thought process behind that? Why did they was those the original three? Like why did they decide to? If not, why did they decide to add like an additional three in afterwards?
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like people would have been a tiny bit disappointed if it had been the elemental monkeys as just your three that you got to pick at the start.
Yeah, it's just yeah, I feel like it would introduce an interesting element of okay, these three Pokemon are exactly the same, the only difference is typing to your starter choices. But I also get why they didn't want to do that for the starters. I think of the elemental monkeys as being more like evolutions, where it's like you have the option of all three, um, and the core difference is the typing, what are you going to do?
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you get the option of which one you want to pick?
Yeah, you must do.
Because I can't remember whether or not it was like, say if you picked Chimchar, they go, okay, here's the His Panpour.
I don't think so. I thought you could get all of them, but then I don't think I've uh that's not a game I like have replayed as much as the others. It's when we get to those episodes, I'm gonna need to do some homework.
Oh yeah,
As opposed to like I reckon Gen 1, 2, 3, and now 9, I'm pretty confident in
yeah.
because I've either played them the most or played them the most recently.
Mm.
But yeah, I think the middle ones, when we get to those episodes, I will need to like replay the games and rewatch the show probably.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna be fine for generations 1, 2, and 4. I feel like midway through 3, I'll have to do a bunch of like research. But like
Yeah.
1, 2, 4, and then am I right in thinking Sword and Shield is at 8? Yeah,
Yes. And then Violet and Scarlet are
yeah,
9.
yeah, 8, and then eventually I'll have 9, which will be fine by that time. But yeah, I feel like my knowledge is about to drop off about midway through season 3, um, generation 3, should I say? So, shall we have a look at the dex entries?
Let's do it.
Okie doke. So, we have got we got a Fearow there. I feel like do you know what the artwork reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me a bit of whoever did the pictures for Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
It feels like,
Quentin Blake?
is that their name? I think it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this would fit in very much like in the Twits garden.
Mm. Yeah. I can see where you're coming from there.
Yeah, the kind of like the long beak, the kind of the muted colours, and yeah, I agree. It looks finished. Like I wonder if there was ever any discussion about having like a mid stage for them. Um,
Mm. I think there was discussion about it. But I'm also kind of I don't know if it needs one. I feel like it does still feel complete.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Although I would disagree that once Gen 2 comes along and they introduce the Dark type, for me it
Yeah.
doesn't quite feel complete. It feels like they should have, because like they've recategorized types before, and I feel like it
Well,
would.
they did. Like it was originally flying and now it's normal flying. So like I guess they thought about it when they added in the normal.
Because why not make it flying dark? It's like it's established that it is the antithesis to Pidgey. So I just wonder what the thought process was.
I think because they introduced Murkrow in Generation 2
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they already had their flying dark. And if they made Spearow and Fearow, or even just Fearow flying and dark,
Mm,
um, it would be like competition for the new ones they introduced. I actually think Murkrow and Huntro are cool as shit. I love them.
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Honestly, I love all the dark types. If I wasn't such a fan of poison type, I feel like dark type would possibly be my favourite.
hmm. Yeah, that's cool. I think the dark types have some very um like just badass designs.
Yeah, yeah, they are the. It feels like they're some of the most creative. Like outside of the legendaries, like the dark
Yeah.
types, they're able to kind of allow their imagination to go a little bit wild. Like I like dark. I like poison. I like ghost types.
Hmm.
Like all that kind of
The
end of the
kind of
Pokemon.
edgy ones. Yeah, they're very cool.
Yeah, that was the kind of Pokemon child that I was. Edgy and cool.
Yeah.
That's how people describe
Edgy,
me.
edgy, cool Pokemon boy.
Yeah, that's how they described me when they were beating me up. They were describing me as that.
Well, look at you now with your own podcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Take that. I don't know. Take that. I'm trying to think of any of their names. That's probably a good thing that I can't remember many of their names.
Yeah, they've faded into obscurity.
Yes, unlike me, who has very much, uh, risen out
You
of
are
obscurity.
you are popping.
Yes, but like I think that that's part of the reason why I kind of dropped off with Pokemon, because it did become like a little bit uncool to not to like Pokemon. But I went to like a particularly like rough school.
Yeah.
It was like the worst school in the UK for grades when
Ugh.
yeah, like 21% pass rate when I left. And it also had it was the first school in the UK to require an on-site police officer at all times. Um, it was, and I think that that's part of the reason why a lot of these things kind of dropped off for me around about the age of like 13. In the way
Yeah.
that it does for a lot of people, but I think it's like in that environment you don't want to be like having any reason to kind of stand out, and
Yeah.
and as a result, this was one of the things that dropped off for a few years.
Yeah, I get that.
Mm. So, should we have a look at the dex entries? I
Let's
feel
do it.
I've had a very brief look at this, and I feel like Fearow's already getting a better lay of the
Yeah.
land.
I, I feel like all the professors that were chatting shit about Spearow then were like, oh shit, Fearow's gonna fuck me up. I best be really nice.
Yeah,
Like, whereas Spearow's wings were short, Fearow's are huge and magnificent.
yeah,
Um, like, okay, kiss ass.
yeah. Do you feel like there was like a Fearow at the window going, "Go on"?
Yeah. It was like, what did you say about my son? And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but you are huge and magnificent.
And like I seem to recall you saying something about Stubby.
Yeah. You're like, he's stubby now, motherfucker.
It can keep. I'm,
Um,
I'm loving some of the language. Like I feel like
yeah.
this is possibly some of the most verbose dex entries we've
Hmm.
had. Um,
Yeah. Like, stadiums are like a Pokemon that enjoys flying. So first off, it's paying attention to what it likes and dislikes, as well as just what it does. It uses its broad wings to adroitly catch the wind to soar elegantly into the sky. Like, like with Spearow, it's like, yeah, it flies, it goes here and there. This will soar elegantly into the sky. Like,
yeah,
okay,
I've never heard the word adroitly before today.
have you not?
No, what does it mean?
Let me get the specific. Um, no, I spelled that wrong. Definition, so I make sure I do it right because I very much feel like vibes. So it comes from a word meaning it implies skillfulness,
Ah,
but not in a physical way, but in a thoughtful way. Like synonyms would be skillful, masterful, dexterous, artistic, deft.
yeah.
That
Um,
that kind of thing.
Something that I do think is interesting is with Yellow, a Pokemon that dates
Yeah.
back many years. I don't know what that sentence really means, but
Yeah.
if it senses danger, it flies high and away instantly, which feels completely in contrast to how it has been portrayed in the anime,
Yeah.
which it is like Yellow is like the most influenced by the anime, possibly of the
Yeah.
whole series. So it just feels odd that they would put such uh, a contrasting piece of information.
Yeah. Because like it's territorial and aggressive and it stands up to people. But then yeah, Yellow thinks it doesn't.
Yeah,
I feel like the verbosity definitely continues. Like gold, it shoots itself suddenly high into the sky, then plummets down in one fell swoop to strike its prey. That again is just it goes up, it goes down, it eats a bug, but is just so grandiose.
mm.
Um, and I feel like Silver is trying to make up for the stubbiness. The way they describe Spearow, it cleverly uses its thin, long beak to pluck and eat small insects that hide under the ground.
They're like,
Um,
remind me again what you were saying about my son. No, no, no. Very clever. Very clever.
there
We
you
consider your
go.
line. I heard something about stubby beaks. That long, thin, long beak. Very
Yeah.
much a thin, long beak.
Crystal has it uses its long beak to attack. It has a surprisingly long reach, so it must be treated with caution. Crystal has some fucking trauma in its history.
Yeah,
Like Crystal Professor fucked with a Spearow and is like, treat with caution.
yeah,
Do not fuck with this bird.
yeah. Is and
Um,
so you shouldn't. So you shouldn't. I mean, I feel like a lot of these professors have been fucking with the Pokemon and not been getting their just rewards really. So good on you,
I feel
Fearow.
like I feel like going forward they run out of words to use for long because Fearow is like the ultimate long boy.
Yeah,
But like Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald have used like a lot of fucking words to say very similar things. Like Fearow is recognized by its long neck and elongated beak. That's just long again, but
yeah,
extra letters. They are
yeah,
conveniently shaped for catching prey in soil or water. It definitely moves its long again and skinny beak to pluck prey. And like Emerald has like basically the same words, but not as many. Its long neck and elongated beak again are ideal for catching prey in soil or water. I think that's a better way of saying what was two sentences before. I feel like it being more condensed definitely reads better.
yeah.
It definitely moves this extended, another word for just long,
Long.
and skinny beak to pluck prey.
And
I
now,
guess they realized in Ruby and Sapphire they used the word long too many fucking times.
yeah, and again, bit body shaming again, using skinny a lot.
Yeah. I feel like they're trying to make up for calling Spearow stumpy and short by being like, "Oh, you're so skinny." Huge and magnificent wings again. I feel like there's a bit of dick wagging here that Fire Red and Leaf Green professors are arguing about because
Yeah,
Fire Red has got it can remain flying a whole day without landing,
yeah,
which feels I guess reasonable.
yeah.
Leaf Green, it can keep aloft without ever having to land for rest. And I feel like Fire Red Professor is sitting there being like, just because you weren't there when it landed didn't mean it didn't land. And Leaf Green is like, no, it never has to. I'm fucking putting it in the Pokedex.
And again, it's a little bit furry,
Yeah.
magnificent.
Yeah. It's huge and magnificent and it never has to sit down. Leave me alone. You don't understand how much I love it. Like, that's Leaf Green Professor. Um, I feel like it's definitely Leaf Green Professor that is the outlier. Because once you get to Gen 4, um, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum all say it has the stamina to fly all day on its broad wings and fights using its sharp beak. So they're sticking with for a day as the
Yeah,
consensus, and I think that's sensible. Heart Gold and Soul Silver reuse some old ones, and then Black, White, and Black and White 2 are back to flying all day and fighting with its beak.
and it says broad wings as if they were like, no,
Broad
we know what
wings.
you were talking, and we know what was happening there when you were going on about and being
Yeah.
so magnificent and Pidgeot and its
Yeah.
beautiful
Like
plumage.
magnificent is a subjective term. Let's actually describe it. When right, it's wings come all the way out. We've used long too many fucking times already. Let's go with broad. Let's go broad, and that's just accurate, and we're not projecting. All right,
Yeah,
Mr. Magnificent Wings.
put
Although
put down that
X
put down that furry magazine. You shouldn't have brought it into work with you. No, no, shouldn't.
although X Professor back to huge and magnificent wings and never having to land for rest. So I reckon X and Leaf Green are kind of in cahoots.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they probably have some form of like forum message board where it's like, uh, Gen 3 Professor sub account and throwaway 0.34 Ruby.
I in keeping with how I felt about the Spearow Dex entries, I think Gen 9 actually has some really good ones. Sun establishes more information about the Pokemon, which I like. It is tough and has excellent stamina. It has no problem flying continuously for a whole day carrying a heavy load. I like that. That tells me more about Fearow.
Yeah,
I think it's impressive yet reasonable.
Yeah.
I also like moons because so going back to the one that said this Pokemon dates back many years, which doesn't make any sense and is repeated in Let's Go.
Yeah.
Moon establishes what that fucking means. Drawings of a Pokemon resembling Fearow can be seen in murals deep in ancient history. So I think that legitimately adds to Pokemon lore
Mm.
because it's are the drawings like old cave paintings that are actually supposed to be Ho-Oh?
Yeah.
That could be a bit of a mystery there.
Yeah.
But I also think, it then builds on, you know, these are flawed, right?
Mm.
Human beings wrote this based on the information that they have. Like, we don't know that these are accurate. Moon is saying, like, we think Fearow is like ancient and mystical, but it could be Ho-Oh, but it might not be. Fearow
Mm.
might be like as ancient as Ho-Oh, and there's a relationship there that we don't know enough about yet.
Yeah.
I think that would be I think that would be a great kind of backstory for Fearow to, a Ho-Oh could be formerly a Fearow that ascended to the rank of the gods. I think that'd be cool
Yeah.
as shit.
Yeah.
Um,
Like flew through a rainbow or something.
yeah. When we get those like snippets here that I find really interesting.
Yeah.
And also I like how all the Sun and Moon coming up next, while Fearow doesn't have like an alternate form, I think the way that they've structured these Pokedex entries so that it's about how Fearow behaves in this environment. So carrying food through Fearow's territory is dangerous. It will snatch the food away from you in a flash. That's cool. Didn't know that before,
Yeah. I've had
right?
I've had that issue in real life. I once had
So have I.
Yeah, I once had a seagull steal an entire pasty off me. I was very upset.
I once had a seagull steal a hot dog that was in my mouth.
What do you mean? What do you mean it was in your mouth? What do
As
you
in, I
what do
was
you
in my
mean?
mouth to
What do
take a
you
bite out of it, and the
mean?
seagull smacked me in the back of the head and reached over
What?
and
What?
ripped the hot dog out my mouth and then flew away. And I was
What?
disoriented. I had no idea what was going on. And my glasses were all covered in chili and cheese, so I couldn't see. And I turned around and my friends were just staring over my head. And I turned back and there was a seagull sitting on a bandstand eating my hot dog.
What? So this was this was one seagull that kicked you in the back of the head. Oh, there was like a second seagull that.
No, there was one seagull that slammed into the back of my head, reached around, ripped the hot dog out of my mouth, and then took it to a bandstand to eat.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember once I saw a seagull. Uh, so someone had ordered themselves a pizza, and then went inside the restaurant to get like some condiments, and I saw a seagull in that brief moment swoop down and carry the whole pizza off, and
amazing.
and I felt like I'd witnessed a crime because I saw the
I,
person come back and be like, "What? Where's my pizza gone?"
you know what I'm
Uh,
starting to think is that they absolutely underutilized Wingull.
mm,
I reckon if they bring in Wingull in any more Pokemon generations, I would like there to be one that's really fucking naughty and
yeah,
steals people's food.
yeah,
Um, or they do a new Seagull Pokemon that is based on being naughty rather than being helpful, because Wingull's quite a helpful Pokemon.
yeah,
But yeah, going back to this, I also like Ultra Moon because all of the others so far have been Fearow eats bugs in soil and a bit also eats stuff out of the water, so I guess it eats fish. Um, in Ultra Moon specifies in Alola, fish Pokemon are its prey, and I think I like this
mm,
because in the original games where you find it in the forest.
yeah,
And obviously Alola does not have as many forests. It has a lot more water because it's like based on Hawaii.
yeah,
So it's like an island nation with like lots of ocean. And here it's like it can be seen circling above the ocean searching for food. So Fearow exists in Alola, but it's had to adapt, even though
yeah,
it's not got a regional variant. I really like the way that they have offered context
yeah.
for it.
Well, I feel like the more and more we do this, the more and more I feel like we learn about these professors, and I feel like Generation 7 professor actually does their job.
Yeah, yeah. I am really starting to like Gen 7 Professor. I think they're a good egg.
Yeah. Um, and one day we may do a whole episode on Generation 7, and there'll be a lot of information about that. And as for Generation 3, I feel like there's going to be a lot of fan art that we're not going to want to look through.
Yes, I think that's true.
uh, Hanging. Right. Oh, well, I'm not here to kink shame. Um, right, and then we've just got repeating back for brilliant for Gen 8 and Let's Go.
Mm-hmm.
So should we move into the Smogon ratings?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's.
Let's do it.
So there they are. That's their little animation. Um, Something that I did notice about Spearow's animation, just to flip back onto Spearow for a second, you can see them like tapping their foot as if they are kind of pissed
Mm-hmm.
off. I like that little attention to detail. But yes, back to Fearow. Again, like it look. I feel like looking at its animation, it looks okay. It's like
Yeah,
this is part of the thing that goes against it. That I feel like there's nothing for me that really makes it stand out.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I would agree with that. And I think the stats that we have on show here kind of reinforce what we were saying earlier about Fearow being like a really good Pokemon to have when you are using it against the middle evolutions
Yeah.
in that sort of mid stage of the game, but they're just not enough to carry it through to the end.
Yeah.
Um,
And like thinking of like Pidgeot, like Pidgeot's got like the big plumage, and it's like I feel like they should have just, I don't know, they should have just added some, to just make it pop a little bit.
yeah, I think if you did have the option of Pidgey's evolution line there, because Pidgeotto can also hold its own against middle evolution Pokemon. Like it's solid, it's consistently solid. Um, I think if you didn't have that option there, like Fearow being your choice of flying Pokemon early on,
Yeah.
or like your only real option of a flying Pokemon early on, would make for some really interesting kind of decisions that you have to make as you go through the game, and you have to think, I can't justify keeping this Pokemon with me now that I'm at this level and this one is lagging behind. What am I going to do about it?
Mm.
I think that would be like a really interesting way to structure the game. That like you have like a kick-ass Spearow, you have a Fearow that bucks up all the middle evolutions, but then once you get to the point that people are using their final stage evolution, your Fearow can't keep up and you have to figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Like.
I think if like I feel like Pidgeot having Pidgeot is kind of playing on easy mode in a little way, but like I get why they did that because it's a game for children. It's not a game for me.
Yeah.
I
Like.
definitely played on the easiest possible mode as a kid. I made the choices that made the game easy for me, not the ones that like challenged me to think about how to approach different situations.
Mm,
So I think it would be very cool um, to be confronted with that kind of thing if the games became that level of challenging. I know you can impose it on
yeah.
yourself, but it'd be interesting to see what happened if it was uh necessary to
Yeah.
have pushed into that corner.
Like something that I just want to do dead quick is I just want to get up Pidgeotto's um, like their stats just so we can like compare
Yeah,
across.
compare them.
So you can see there, so like Pidgeotto is on like 63, 60, 55, 50, 50, 71. And
Yeah, so not as good as Fearow.
no,
Like still solid, still a solid middle evolution, but not as good as Fearow. So you've got that little gap
yeah,
where Fearow is superior for a bit,
yeah,
but then as soon as your Pidgeotto evolves,
yeah. So let's
like
see.
Fearow's done for.
So yeah, so you can see there that like Pidgeot is like
Tank.
in, yeah, apart from attack, the attack, which I think is just a physical attack. is
Yeah.
higher, but everything else is lower. And so yeah, it just does. It just kind of drops off. You can see there it's also in untiered, which means that it's like it's
Not really used. And
yeah
I can't blame anyone for not using it
yeah.
competitively.
We've got here Fearow has a multitude of issues in pitiful bulk, average offensive stats, a weakness to stealth rock, and a reliance on critical hits to show up its low-powered attacks, which make its damage output inconsistent.
Yeah.
Which don't surprise me.
No, doesn't surprise me either.
So, where would you place it on the Trubbish rating?
I think I would also give it a 4. I think I'm sticking it where it was with Spearow, to be honest. I don't think it has much more um to offer the story or the gameplay compared to Spearow.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's also like, when we were looking at the things that could tie it to Ho-Oh, when we were talking about the ways that they could make Fear a little bit more interesting without really having to
Mm.
change it, just giving it more lore in the game,
Mm.
I feel like it is sold a bit short. Like there was a lot of potential there
Mm.
to like make it a bit more interesting without having to make any changes to it. Just add a plot, a small subplot, like have a character who lives near the forest or the ocean in Alola talk about like how Fearow is his favorite Pokemon. He's done all this research and he thinks there's a connection to some ancient god Pokemon. It's like that's enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be an actual like subplot of the game. Just have like one
Mm.
character, one side character be really into it, and it can recontextualize the way that you see Fearow
Yeah.
and can just make it a bit more fun to think about. And I feel like that is a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
So I can't justify putting it any higher.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm probably going to do the same, probably around about 5. I was considering a 6 because I did enjoy the additional lore stuff that was in some of
Mm,
the deck entries. But yeah, I feel like it does get lost.
it
Like,
does.
even in Gen 1, it gets lost. So the chances of
Yeah.
it getting lost across, like, multiple generations, I think, is just... was just inevitable for this one.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Well, should we bring it to a close?
yes. It's been thank you to everyone who is here in the chat with us.
Yes,
It's
thank
been
you.
absolutely bloody lovely spending the afternoon with you. So we're having another little bit of a break. Because we have another busy month coming up. We're very sorry. So our next Talking Trubbish is going to be on Tuesday, 3rd of October in the evening,
Yeah,
where we will be talking about Ekans and Arbok, the original GSD from Team Rocket's
yeah,
partner. I'm going to pop a link to the Facebook event if you want to get like reminders on your socials. And apart from that, I'll chuck our link tree in as well so that you can follow us everywhere and keep up with what we're doing next.
yeah,
Do keep an eye on our social channels over the next like week or so because we will have the pictures that we've drawn
yeah,
and you can vote for your favorite coming up soon. Same as ever. Tell your mates
yeah,
because we do love hearing everything you have to say about all the Pokemon we're talking about too.
yeah. Right. Peace out. See you next month.
See you next month.
Bye bye.